Yeah. What's the full screen on Firefox?
F11.
That was F11, right. Yeah. Oh, damn. Let's hope this works.
Do you have enough laptops?
No, I'm not sure about that.
Any more screens?
Yeah, okay. You'll start the timer as well. Okay, let's see how this goes. So, here's a pic. Right, so this talk is about alternate history. So here's an alternate history. There's Pressburg and all these lovely fields, and this is a history where the Cold War didn't happen because obviously the Iron Curtain should have left a mark here. Oh no, wait, that really is Bratislava. That's Kitsi, it's in Austria, and the border, the former Iron Curtain runs, that's the border post, and it went sort of. So, yeah, history's a bit weird. That talk is mostly meant to calm me down, because the official thing of this is the non-butterfly effect, a universe where Camelia didn't flap her wings. I need something to tell me the time. So, basically, what if there were no Pearl 6? Or, more accurately, what if John Orwell had never thrown the bugs against the wall at Ostrom and never caused Larry to announce the Pearl 6 project? So, it's an alternate history of Pearl, which is kind of more true than not, although some of the things are strange, and we take a kind of sideways look at a few other projects where that's relevant to explain what's going on. I've chosen a couple of things that ripple to alternative outcomes, and minimum number, partly because they're interesting and sometimes because they set up a good joke. At least I thought they were jokes. Sometimes people even laugh. I am scared whatever about the timing, so if someone tells me where 30 minutes is, that would be useful. So it's basically roughly the game Chrononauts, and you can see a massive amount of preparation on this thing. I've never actually played Chrononauts, but basically it's a time-travelling card game, and there's this concept of linchpins, which are events that you change, and the effects of changing those linchpins ripple out through history. So I'm changing only 2 or 3 linchpin, and the rest of everything that happens is ripples. There is some jargon in this talk. I should try to keep it to a minimum, but P5P refers to Perl 5 port as the main Perl development list. The master branch of development is referred to as bleed. It's a pun on bleeding edge, it's effectively trunk. For all practical, the reason I mention this is because there were chunks of time where much work was being done on the core, but it was never being released in a stable version. So Soy's told you about stuff, I can tell you this, but you can't use it yet. And at one level it's kind of pictures or it didn't happen. If something isn't released, that's nice to hear, but it's not actually available. XS formally is the extension syntax for Perl 5, but I'll use it for anything that reference is tightly coupled to the Perl 5 internals. Rakudo, so yes, in this universe there's Perl 6, sorry, in that universe there's definitely a Perl 6 project. Unfortunately, the official Perl 6 is just a test suite and a specification, so I can mention the Perl 6 project things by name and it doesn't clash. And the last thing that I should mention in terms of jargon is self-hosting, which might seem like an odd thing to mention. It's the idea that you write a compiler in its own language, so most C compilers are written in C, and so on. Many other languages do it, and it's a good goal. The downside of this is, well, if you've written the language in itself, how do you first create the compiler? Bootstrapping problem. The upside of having a compiler written in its own language is that many more people potentially can help you work on the compiler. Because if you have a Perl compiler written in Perl, then potentially all people in the room can help you because they only need to learn about compilers. Whereas if you have a Perl compiler written in C, the people in the room need to learn 2 things, Perl and C. Becomes relevant later. Where am I? This one. Disclaimers, yes, there are some jokes that might be too subtle or only for a few people. I'd really prefer to answer questions afterwards because I'm worried about the timing, but if it's fast I might be able to answer it. My kind of crystal ball goes fuzzy by the alternative year 2013, and you can blame, thank Karl Mazak, because he had this idea of, what happens if we didn't have this, and the principal punchline is his. Have I missed anything? And the illustrations are mostly t-shirts, because it makes some good jokes. So what's this one say? Pugs has always been on the Perl 6 roadmap. Oh yes. The Python infidels are already surrendering, and it's the Iraqi information ministry. Well, that's not true, is it? So that one has to go. Yeah. Right. The next problem was like, what do you do with Larry? And no, I had Larry in the room when I did this. It's kind of brave. So it's kind of Larry's superhero. But basically, Larry pulls an all-nighter pair program with Chuck Norris and delivers the Perl 6 you've always dreamed of but afraid to ask for. That would make a very interesting talk. We'll get the schedule back on track. But also, it's not plausible, because unlike Chuck Norris, Larry is human. So the other one, the brave one, was Larry, Space Cadet. Larry just disappears. No one knows where he's gone. And then one day we're watching a webcast of a SpaceX launch, and there, just poking behind the monitor, where's the Hawaiian shirt? And then, yes, there we go, moustache, hat, everything. That's what Larry's been doing for the past 5 years. But that also wasn't too good. So the kind of alternative, instead is alternative Larry, who works on some stuff he worked on in this universe, and some other stuff. So no, we didn't kill Larry, but he's kind of in the story, but not a big part. So the beginning of this is the 1990s. Oh, sorry, there was a point. So yeah. So what happened? So yeah, there was no Perl 6. Well, yeah, was there? Let's get started. So what happens in the 1990s? I'm scared about time.
The schedule is screwed in.
Yeah.
Okay.
My train goes and other people's trains go earlier. So, in the 90s, you had release 503 in 1996, 504 the next year, 505 the next year. Note also that the first maintenance release was 5 days later. Things happen quickly. 50, 502. Kind of slows down at this point, 1999, 50, 503. There isn't a 506. There's been a bit of stall. Also at this time, Chip Salzenberg starts a project called Topaz, which is an attempt to rewrite Perl in C++, solving some of the problems of the internals. So this is all the stuff that happens before the mugs. The next question is, what happens? Was there a Perl 6 or not? You see, the rather late 5.6.0 was supposed to do Unicode, and it was late. It was getting quite late. Schwern re-released Perl 1 as a bit of a hint, Reese, is it easy? Can you just do this, please? And there was already talk of, well, should this thing we're not getting out the door, should it really be Perl 6? Because Unicode's a big change. So, yeah, I'm taking liberties with that. So there's kind of 3 possible versions of history. That 560 was still called 560, it came out about the same time, or that 580 had more Unicode, so we can call that 560, or maybe 560 was called 60 when it came out at about the same time. So basically, or we have it never happen, and instead there was a 56, the old version number scheme, and then a big 6. But anyway, 2.5 of those 3, they converge. They kind of say that the Perl 5 we love and hate got renumbered as 6 with proper Unicode. And that kind of makes it easy, because I'll just keep all the other relative timings the same, and in real history we have 5, and in alternate history we have 6. There's also another improvement to keeping track of what the hell's going on. So, alternative 2000. There is this MacGuffin silhouette icon. This is alternate history. There is no Camelia. Sorry, Camelia. My 0th linchpin thing I flip is that Unicode deserved a major bump, what I said before. We're calling the old hairy thing 6. Tangled with the first real linchpin that John Orwell didn't throw the mugs, Larry didn't announce Perl 6, everything carries on. So in my alternate history, Sarathy releases 600. It's marketing compatible with Unicode because it can't actually do Unicode I/O, it can't do Unicode hash keys, and the regular expressions are not polymorphic. So if you have the regular expression dot operator, sometimes it matches a character, and sometimes it matches half a bit of UTF-8, and everything gets mangled up. And let's not talk too much about that. Whereas in the real world, good, someone noticed. Sarathy releases 560. In April, Chip makes a release of Topaz, and yes, I did look at CVS to do that. And mugs are thrown, Perl 6 is announced. There are 361 RFCs, improvement proposals, and also in that year, Python 2 was released, which is the first version of Python with Unicode.
More or less.
Sorry?
More or less.
More or less. Yeah, Python 3 will get mentioned when Python 3 happens. Then, yeah, Topaz was officially abandoned when the mugs were thrown. it was kind of languishing already. So anyway, what happens in real 2001? Originally the Parrot project was an April Fool on Perl.com. Article was written with this hypothetical Parrot project, deadpan article about merging the backends of Python and Perl. And yeah, and then it became real. Well, at least that was the name chosen for the internals project, and the first check-in was in August. 561 itself was released then. That's about 15 months after the previous one. And the other thing that kicked off as a result of all the mugs thrown was this realisation that there was going to be a bit of a change, and everything was going to need some really good tests. So a lot of test-driven development, evangelism started as a direct side effect. I believe at the meeting where the mugs were thrown, it was decided that this would need to happen. So this is directly linked, the kickoff of this is directly linked to the Perl 6 project. Strange as it may seem. I really have no idea where I am on the timing. Well, how far in I am minutes-wise. I know where I'm on the bar. So in Alternative 2001, Alternative Sarafy releases 601, and there isn't this test-driven evangelism. Yeah, well, one of my other questions was, what about resources? Because in theory now there aren't two projects, there's plenty more people. But, so what would actually have happened instead is that there would, a chunk of that stuff that went, right, cool. Thanks Lee, I like that. A chunk of that suggestions that have been in our universe went off to Perl 6 RFC would have landed on what we have here as Perl 6 porters. There would have been a lot of those landing on the same main dev list. And there'd be mostly valid problems, but many of the solutions offered will be less than awesome. Because your problem is basically legacy code, the stuff that makes the money, and the conflict is always between that and new features. And some people want change, but everybody wants their working code to keep working. And there was a lot of tension on Perl 5 portals at this time, which the Perl 6 project moved away. Because now this is the one we're going to keep working, and that's the new bootable thing. But the RFC process didn't actually produce good answers. It produced valid problems, but not necessarily good designs to solve them. And so, yeah, Mark Jason Dominus wrote a critique. Oh wait, no, that's real. That's in our universe, actually. The weird bit is it's still valid 15 years later about how this process won't work. Now, yeah, what do we do about Topaz? I'm not quite thinking. So the upshot of all that is, I'm assuming that we have that more people burn out. So we have about the same number of people working. So I don't magically have more resources to work on per 6. Sorry. What happens about Topaz? Well, Topaz was not 100% compatible with. Topaz still goes because you still need a rewrite. You've still got the same messy internals. It's not 100% compatible with my, our Perl 6 thing. So to try and fix this, Chip writes a tool called 6 to T, which is kind of Python's 2 to 3. It's the same idea. We'll try and convert it. And the general assumption is that this next generation Perl will be like the Python 2 to 3 transition, a big flag day organisations change. And yeah, it doesn't work like that. The other trouble with this whole forwards thing, Python 2 to 3, this hypothetical 6 to T, is you write ugly code in the old language which has to conform to the thing that the processor does. You never get to actually see the new language you like to be using, so you don't get to write beautiful new code, and you still have to convert your code at the end of this. So this is the downside of the 2 to 3 approach in Python. And you also don't have this point where someone accidentally uses a new feature and, oh, you had to move. Because I kind of got into C++ because I was using CFront, mostly it's a better C compiler than anti-C compiler, and then accidentally started writing more and more C++. But the CFront approach is a better way around to do it. Another problem with our next generation Perl is that there's no XS. This is both kind of a feature and a bug. I mean, the feature is that there's none of the horrible internals, and the bug is that none of the existing extensions work. A particular selling point of Perl 5 a long time back then was like, hey, you can have two different databases in the same program. You can move your data from Sybase to Oracle or whatever. And Obit said in Glitch that your kind of CV for your Perl programming in that kind of period was DBI, class DBI, template toolkit or Mason, and CGI.pm. And DBI, yep, no one wants to rewrite all of these for the new internals. So yeah, Topaz kind of fizzles out. And I said about self-hosting, the intersection of people who know Perl and people who know C++ is quite small. So, yeah, nobody really wants to work on it, so sorry, Topaz. What happens in real 2000? Okay, so Yarko releases 580, it has iThreads. iThreads are great. But your problem with iThreads is the Perl API. And whether you call it an API or not, however much you document, it's basically direct structure access to the internals. And one of the best ones, this is the API, I think on SVPDX, it gives you direct access to the character buffer. Well, the bytes buffer, it's a fixed layout in RAM. That thing doesn't tell you, is the caller, the API user reading this or writing it? And when did they stop looking? So, you can't, when did they stop looking? So if you're trying to write an emulation layer for this, you always have to handle the worst case, which is that they intend to write to it. But somehow it's very difficult. Nothing's hidden behind functions, so you can't change the representation. You have to present the same representation to everybody, which just makes life hard, and makes particularly iThreads hard, because you now want more than... You can't do locking, for example, with this sort of thing. I'm not explaining this well. I'm terrible. Who came last time? So in all 2002, Yarko releases 660. It addresses all those three deficiencies of of Unicode, IOs, hashes, and regex. All that stuff works. This is actually a Unicode version you can use, just like our universe. And it has iThreads. And they promise to be better than the Segedin 505 threads, but they will have all the problems I just described, that the internals are not friendly at all to it. There we go. So what happens in 2003? Well, Yarko, after 15 months, releases 581, then I release 582 in a bit of a hurry. December, Damien gets a grant to work on Perl 6 rules from the Perl Foundation. A project called Pony starts, Perl on a new internals engine, the idea being that you could exploit Parrot. I think you mentioned better in the next slide, and PyPy starts. PyPy is a self-hosting implementation of Python, Python written in Python. That's how long ago it started. In my old 2003, Yarko releases 621, 15 months. Annoyingly, Red Hat Enterprise Linux ships with 620 3/4. Yeah, I released that. Again, like in our universe, Arthur asks for work. Arthur asks his boss for work time to work on Perl, because Arthur has seen that the API sucks in vtables. Brain wrong order. The reason Pony was Parrot was built using vtables, a much better way of hiding the internals. It looks good for threads. So yeah, we have that here as well, and we have the Buffy project. Best use functions for increased efficiency. And of course, the only reason it's called that is because London PM can't figure out a backronym for Willow. So what happens in real 2004? Yeah, I released 583, 584, 585. You can see there's a nice rhythm going on here. Unfortunately, Perl 6 rules died. Damien had planned to use lexical variables in code blocks of substitutions to do the production rules, or something like that. He certainly was relying on lexical variables working in regular expressions. And they didn't. They were a horrible hack. He wasn't aware of this. He based the grant on this assumption. He even considered writing his own regular expression engine to fulfill the grant, and then just realised that, you know, even Damien isn't that crazy. So he had to give up on it. As my understanding is that he never took any of the money because he never did any of the work. But it was still very frustrating. Also, the oldest file in YARV, the Ruby rewrite, dates from 2004. In our alternative 2004, hey, I released that. What I should note is that half the changes, that a lot of work going on, but only half of it was released. Because what was happening was changes are being filtered from bleed, changes that are acceptable to a maintenance release are being filtered from bleed to maint. This is a lot of work. So you're maintaining no breaking changes on the maintenance release, and you're creating a lot of work to filter these two apart. And a bunch of interesting features like Eve's rewriting the regular expressions to trees for alternations and stuff just doesn't get shipped. Pictures or it didn't happen. And this kind of, when is this going to happen? The other thing that we're getting is we're losing the rhythm of regular releases. because what we have back now with regular releases is people are expecting to upgrade at some point, whereas they just get into this lovely, well, we can just sit on 588 and we don't have to change, 58 something, sorry, 622 first, change things. So this was a big, scary thing, which comes up soon. And yeah, like in our universe, in this one, Buffy was slain following a management reshuffle. Yeah, this joke signed a non-disclosure agreement. Someone gets this. Please address any calls to Gina Jones on 0208 or 8000. Yeah, I'm actually mixing up history because that was 2007 and sort of. But yeah, it gets slain because its internal management sponsor dies, which was approximately in the real world. But there was an insight from Buffy, which was you couldn't change everything, but you could. The Perl 5 source code is one of the reasons it's ugly, it's full of macros, but they hide the actual layout, and you can move bits of things around, and almost everything compiles. It was pretty astounding when we built Pony. Gosh, DVI just worked. Might have been slower, but it worked. So this insight was applied to Bleed to reduce the memory usage by changing where things were stored, remove chunks of several pointer indirections, because it was all hidden behind macros, and it turned out, we discovered from Pony, Buffy, whatever, that this was achievable. So it wasn't entirely useless. So what happens in 2005? In our universe, PHP 6 started. This was an attempt to do Unicode UTF-16. I released 587, and Pugs was started, initially by Audrey, who's now digital, what, minister awesome. Anyway, Audrey wanted to explore junctions. What happens in Alt 2005? So, in Alt 2005, I released that, and Red Hat ships with an earlier version, so that's the second release Red Hat shipped with a 5.8 something. And I'm slowing down with my releases. Now this wouldn't have mattered if the 640 had shipped in our world 510, but it hadn't, so life was getting tougher. What happens in January 2006? Cool, okay, I should be the cube, I'm not. January 2006, in our universe, 588 ships, first commit in Rakuda repository. The Python 3000 announcement is that old. In October, Eves lands some stuff of named captures in Bleed, including subroutine calls. But, you know, basically regular expressions never were that regular, but now they're pretty much as powerful as grammars. Oh, and Moose starts. Moose was an outshot of Audrey working, Stephen Little working on Pugs to explore the object system, meta object system there, and then he started doing it for Perl 5. I'm trying to look at what my chunk is. In all 2006 I released that, but Red Hat is stuck because math parity is failing its tests on 634. And Fedora policy was that things shall pass tests or they're not going in, so they're stuck on their upgrade. Yeah, here we go. In 2007, in our universe, Ruby 1.x6 is released. That's the last version of the old of Matt's Ruby interpreter. 5.10.0 ships, and Ruby 1.9 YAR for rewrites for Unicode ships. So they get their Unicode thing done there. In all 2007, Red Hat Enterprise Linux ships to 6.8.2a, so that's the third on that. Raphael released 6.4.0, and it breaks the Glasgow Haskell compiler bootstrap because we had removed $star, and they were using that. And to date, in the alternate universe, that's the biggest interaction between the Haskell and Perl communities. So there are no Lambda camels in this universe. Oops, that has to go. And at a post-YAPC Europe party, there's a plan for an internals rewrite. I mean, could this be due to a bottle of whiskey? No one's quite sure.
Likely.
Yeah, no, I honestly can't remember what I can't remember what the bottle of whiskey was, and that's not because I was drinking it. I mean, that's another little linchpin that flips off in another direction that's mostly unrelated to this talk, apart from preparation for this talk is not happening as fast as it should do due to the house building project. So, what is this internals rewrite and what do we learn from it? It's a project called Cube. It's a registered machine, much like our timelines, Parrot and Morviet, so this is to explain these two. The idea is to do threads right, and most of the design of this is I'm cribbing from Parrot. Like Parrot, it writes bytecode files, it has an assembly language, it's not self-hosting, it's still written in C using a PEG parser, sorry. Its official title is Perl the Next Generation, and its code name is Cube. Cube, officially because it's cubic zirconia, a fake gemstone, and of course it's hard, damn hard, but really it's a Borg cube. The idea is to assimilate Perl, take over. And this is a laudable goal, everybody cheers. Some people even help. What happens in 2008? Well, in our universe, Ruby 1.8 ships. There were 3 new bullet points. This is the first of the JavaScript virtual JavaScript JITs. Safari started announced Squirrelfish. Chrome and V8 are also later that year, so this is the start of the JavaScript arms race. In December, Python 3.0 ships. That's when Python 3.0 ships. And I ship 5.8.9. In the alternate universe, I ship 5.6.2. Well, that follows, doesn't it? What happens in old 2009? This is where we start. Yeah. Ruby 1.9 ships. 1.91 ships. That was actually took 3.5 years for that to become Debian's default Ruby. In April, Oracle announced the purchase of Sun, and therefore Java. Fun. Python 3.1 shipped 6 years later. 2.7 is still the default pretty much everywhere except Arch. Firefox and their JIT ships then. 5.10, 5.11. It's the start of regular bleed releases in our universe. It's the first commit in the NQP repository. And modern Perl starts, which immediately made a very large impact. In alternate universe, modern Perl has very little visibility. Dave releases very little visibility. The foundations that Chromatic built just don't exist. So sorry, there's no modern Perl. There's no Perl Renaissance on the t-shirt. So, Frankfurt t-shirt, that should be good. Problem! Fortunately, we have an alternative universe. Frankfurt t-shirt. So, right. Yeah, that's better. Dave releases 6.4.1. Because there hasn't been this modern Perl and testing and stuff, in our universe a bunch of problems were found by people testing it. One of the link jokes is the BBC, it's not the British Broadcasting Corporation. Bleed Perl breaks CPAN. Andreas Koenig regularly tests as much of CPAN as he can to see whether Bleed has broken anything and diligently tells us, you messed this up, please fix something. But that relies on modules having tests. In this universe, there aren't many modules with tests. The BBC is not working very well. So, no one ever tests a 0.0 release, but in this universe, things just aren't as happy. There's a lot more. So, it's worse. It's much worse. There's a bunch more commercial pressure to stay on the original 6.2, whatever, the ones I released. What happens about Q? Well, the plan is much like, actually like Piney, Alison's project. It was to, we'll do Perl 1, Perl 2, we'll write Perl 1, and then we'll write Perl 2, and improve that to Perl 3, improve that to Perl 4. Get our way to alternate 6. Perl 1, it's fine, just fine. Perl 3, trying to write a parser for that, you start having trouble with a PEG parser or similar. Because here docs are line-based. Most of the rest of it is just all white space, it's white space, and suddenly you hit this thing of, error. Now we have to start doing it differently. So that's hard work to get a parser to do right, but they get over it. And then they get to Perl 5. Perl 5 has begin blocks. You get to the closing semicolon and you have to run code immediately, and it might change what the parser does. Those are really hard to parse. People thinking a PEG parser can do it are going to have fun. And if you thought those were fun, the second problem is that if you're trying to compile to individual bytecode files, how do you link these? It's not at all easy. Jonathan has fixed this in Perl 6 after a lot of thinking about it. So in my universe, it also hits Larry has to go at rewriting the compiler, the B backend, throws out the crazy text-based assembler syntax starts using a version of Storable to do binary serialization of op trees, which should work, but hits this problem that you can't compile foo.pm to an object and bar.pm and then load them up because you just can't achieve the linking bit at that time because stuff conflicts with begin op. How do you serialize begin operations? This was code that ran when it compiled. How do we make that state appear now? So basically it ends up being good to serialize the entire program but not decompose modules, and it's got kind of limited issues. This hits anybody trying to do a Perl 5 rewrite. What about Red Hat math parity? Well, Red Hat still can't get it past that test. Violation blocks Fedora update. So there's also so they don't want to do that. There's also customer pressure to stick on the 620 series, like 588 in our universe. So the second linchpin I'm changing is that they don't upgrade. Due to customer pressure, they stick on the older version. This linchpin is artistic license because it permits a good story soon. Because the truth is stranger than fiction. As you will see. Because what happened in our universe, I forgot to mention this, is that someone decrypted Ilya's source code well enough to send an anonymous patch back to Red Hat. This is how to fix it. Anonymous, because that person didn't want to get asked any questions ever again about it. Something very similar happened with Cairo recently. So in our universe, in alternate 2010, I can't even see my timeline anymore, we get 512, 521, blah blah blah. PHP 6 is killed. Python 2.7 ships. Oracle first sue Google. 30?
30.
Lee's already said 30 minutes ago.
I believe that's some coffee.
Yeah, we're okay. Red Hat in our universe do ship with 5.10.0. In alternate universes, losing track of. Cube is having problems, but it ends up with this. What kills Cube in the end is classic Perl needs time to destroy. You have destroy actions that trigger cleanups, database file, cleanups, file handle closing. Now the plan for Parrot was to this idea of something called high priority garbage collection. But basically, every time you got to a scope exit and wanted to make sure destroy blocks run, you'd know how many how many objects had destroy on them. You just scan until you found them all, and this ought to work because you keep a tree of the way to get to all of them, and on the assumption that most of this stick around. And yeah, it was a plan. I don't think it was really going to work. I think it's not going to work with threads in particular because they've just said garbage scan, which means all the threads have to stop to agree. It will be painful for real threads. So they tried switching to reference counting, and they've just tried this in Python. And if you use atomic ops for reference counting, you get straight out 30% slowdown. And there is a paper about doing this from 2000, and they were kind of assuming 3 cores do this and 1 for that. And all the ways you speed this up are buffering reference counting so it doesn't happen immediately, which just gets rid of timing disruption, which was the thing you were trying to keep. So Cube switches to green threads. The idea of everything's emulated on one CPU, which is good enough for Python and Ruby, so that must be good enough for Cube. But we haven't got concurrency. The other trouble with Cube is function signatures work. You can actually do this, you could do this in Perl 5, you could make that one work because the way signatures work, you could split separate coming in, because in our universe that will all get messed up, but at least in this universe, TOB can tell those two parts of their body apart. The problem is that return values you simply can't get to work. So whilst you'd love it to be able to split those apart, sorry, in this universe, even just on our timeline, everything ends up in stats. The other problem with just doing a Perl 5 rewrite, sorry, Perl 6 rewrite, is that it's still typeless, so you still have just a string type which has bytes or characters, you've still got that big trap. So everyone's still getting emoji bake all the other way around, it's still hell. And the final thing that in the end kills Cube is the same with Ruby. Your Ruby is no good unless it runs Rails. Yeah, you can make benchmarks run nice and fast, but what about a real application? So the assumption would have been for Cube that you all those macros, those function calls into it, and yes, the excess modules, so they do work, but they are painfully slow, and so Spam Assassin and Frozen Bubble, your, for example, benchmarks just tank. So, Cube doesn't have a good day. Also, what's happening to Alt Larry? Well, in our universe, he worked on the Java Perl lingo, a glue for Java and Perl. He didn't work on inline Java, but I assume that was the next logical thing to do. So he worked on that. MAD, which is an abstract syntax tree. He's probably looking at parsers. Viv and STD were parsers for Perl 5, Perl 6 written in Perl 5. So I'm going to assume that taken from those, he worked on inline Java, the B compiler I already mentioned, and had this idea to. Damien always talked about after parse rect descent, there'll be parse fast descent. So alternatively, Larry works on an idea of trying to write parse Perl 5 in Perl 5 by writing a follow-up parser using the ultra crazy regular expressions I just described to do it. Particularly, I see he's moving off Java because this is about the point when Oracle is starting to sue, and it's not looking like a nice place to be. Because not all Larrys are nice. So, in Alternative 2010, Red Hat Enterprise Linux ships with 6.2.9, not 6.4 ever. It's stuck. And this was kind of a real fear. I haven't said this yet. It was a real fear of some of the Perl core devs this was going to happen. It's all very well you have all this development off, but if everyone is actually using an old version and never going to move, what's the point? And it looked kind of like Ruby was in this trap for a while because Debian took 3.5 years to upgrade Ruby versions to YARV. But they did get out of that, and it's not at all clear how Python's going to get out of this mess because everyone's been sitting on 2.7 for ages because it's really good. So in this universe, this has gone wrong. Red Hat is stuck. Also, 6.6.0 is later because we haven't had regular releases. So we have Red Hat now on 6.2 something for that. Firms just expect Perl to be the same as the one I released. People are kind of worried about that. In real universe, 5.12, 13, 5.14, the regular releases. Relevant is the earliest commit for what Dave called RE eval jumbo fix. He spent about the next year working on getting lexicals to work in regular expressions. This is what the Perl 5 core make fun enables people to do, because you just don't have that as spare time. July was when Java 7 came with invoke dynamic operator, which is really, really useful for targeting dynamic languages. And 5.14.2 shipped then. In 2012, Cube is effectively stalled, it's abandoned. Jesse finally, about a year later than our universe, ships his equivalent 6.6.0. The monthly release cycle starts, but yeah, does 6.0 matter? I'm actually in the wrong place, in my head anyway. Does 6.0 matter? Does this new version matter? Because everyone's still using 6.2x. Are they going to do it forever? People are getting grumpy. They've heard about all these rewrites that are supposed to deliver them stuff, and they went, oh, where is my flying car? Where is my Perl 7? It happens in this universe too. And so Stephen Little starts a project called Mo. In this universe it's a couple of years early, but what else is there to do? Now, I realised that in this universe people just want Perl 7, they don't really know what it should be. But actually, some folks in our universe, when they said Perl 7, actually had a plan. They wanted to put Moose in the Perl core and call it 7. This is actually an actionable spec. Someone ran away. I had a go at knocking up a visualization. There will be complaints. To be very clear, I think the thing that's particularly daft is the idea of bundling something from CPAD and saying, hey, this is so cool, it's the thing you've been waiting for 10 years, this is worth a big mega version bump. I'm not convinced that's a good idea. Also, to be clear, even if you did just bundle Moose into the core and still call it Perl 5, for example, the first thing that's going to happen is Fedora will take it straight back out again, because it's a module that doesn't need to be there, so, yeah. And your user base on Red Hat will just end up with no Moose, so you haven't won. The reality is that this isn't actually going to work too well. Anyway, back to the real story. So that was the silhouette of that, which is obviously a complete anachronism. In real 2012, Jonathan releases more VM. No, sorry, Jonathan starts more VM very privately. 5.16 starts, 15 releases. Dave merges his work for the past year just after its release, so there's another year to shake out the bugs. Rather weird thing this, Ruby underlines maintenance on 1.8.7. Debian, in the same month, finally switches off that Ruby. We have a bunch of other releases. So what about Mo? And it's the same description of Mo whether in our universe or theirs. It's kind of invert. The sturgeon compilation is 90% of everything is crap. Perl 5, 6, whatever you want to call it, it's actually the other way round. 90% of everything is great. And even better, most folks agree what that 90% is. And they agree what the 10% is. The problem is that they also use a little bit of that 10% of. So, in Mo, decision was to get rid of type globs. Yeah, that's cool. Type globs suck. Trouble is that every exporter module on CPAN uses type globs. It has no other way of doing it. The internals of all the I/O modules are type globs. They die. You turn strict on, yeah, that's good, but that kills all the exporter modules as well because they're using soft references on their type globs. Yeah, prototypes. Stephen said, you know, if you want prototypes, they're ugly. Don't want to use those. Kill them. Yeah, whoops. You just broke test more. He said, you know, if you want to break CPAN and you're in a hurry, that's the fastest way to do it. Yeah, so you can do this. You have Mo. You rewrite arrow as dot and so on. I mean, you've got language design made sane, but none of your existing code works. It's kind of, how does migration to Mo work? Well, that's never kind of the thing. It's the same as all these other ones. I'm worried I missed something. And the other thing was, yes, you use Scala. So it's on the JVM, which runs wonderfully once it's nice and warm, but the startup costs are a pain. And the author of JRuby, the original, I forgot his name, had said that he reckons they've probably got the best Ruby implementation of the lot with JRuby, but nobody is going to use it for command line stuff because the startup time is too slow. Mo would have this problem. So we kind of got the same problem with my hypothetical topaz thing. What's your access code do? In real 2013, this is when Steam actually starts on Mo. Python is 10 releases. NQP works on the JVM. There's a good summer code project to put NQP onto the JavaScript virtual machines. The weird bit, yeah, Ruby 1.8.7 is end of life for all security stuff. More is reveal, release. Then they un-end of life it. It's a security thing. I still don't know why this happened. In 2014 they re-end of life it. Yeah, it doesn't make sense. I hope yeah. All 2013, you finally get to the point where you have the regular expression stuff that Eves did, and the lexical fixes that Dave's come together in a release, which means you could get now to the point where fast descent will be able to omit Perl code. Yeah, that would be why in this universe, like ours, mode is not self-hosting, it's not a Perl parser. The infrastructure needed to do the Perl parser in Perl doesn't come until after Mo is started. So, I forgot that. I'm feeling more flustered than last time. So, we are nearly there. That's the way. The message of this is that re-implementations take a long, long time. It takes an even longer time to migrate. Python is still in their migration. Re-implementations don't make the language fundamentally better. And deep architectural changes are hard. I don't think any C-based language, Perl, Python, Ruby, or like that, has managed to introduce true multi-core concurrency into an existing implementation. You aren't going to get that with Really? So, another bit of comparison is the core is still neither easy or fun in our alternate universe. It's still written ugly C. You would have probably had in an alternate universe more re-implementations, in much the way that the Python and Ruby worlds have more implementations. And everyone, you would have got that, yeah. Yeah, re-implementation is not fun. It wouldn't massively increase the number of volunteers available to work on stuff. You will get more re-implementation, I think, but they all still found all the same problems, that they don't support XS, so all the existing extension modules and all the fun things like DDI and so on just aren't available to you for free. You have to completely rewrite your ecosystem. in my alternate universe, with a little bit of artistic license, for sure, the yearly releases would start later because the lessons of Parrot doing yearly releases wouldn't have been learnt in our universe. And the yearly releases might still be relevant anyway because in my universe, Red Hat gets stuck. I thought that was good fun. In this universe, I'm having Mo earlier, there's nothing else there, there's no Perl 6. This is the final attempt to solve things. I could phrase that in a very dodgy way for Austria. Mo will keep going for longer because there's nothing else that seems a better plan for it. Test-driven development would have taken longer to get adopted. Moose would have been late or never because it depends on Pugs, which depends on the whole Perl 6 project. And basically there was no Perl Renaissance. So, sorry, I took the Perl matter, I took the Perl Renaissance. Whereas in, I want it all. I want fast startup, I want meaningful CPAN compatibility, and I want multi-core concurrency. And nothing in my alternative universe looked like it was ever going to get there. Yeah, maybe there was a bit of cheating, but I'm pretty sure we can't do it. Whereas in our universe, Rakuda or more VM is certainly 2 out of 3. It's got multi-core concurrency and fast startup. And inline Perl 5 is getting you somewhere towards the CPAN stuff. So, the alt universe is different, but it's certainly not better. And for the completeness, the photo credits on the Moose are that for the record. And I still like the last little picture. So yeah, the building project is that this is, I was going to say, this is Wieden in the 23rd district. No, wrong timeline. This is Vienna and this is Lower Austria. That's the Danube, just many names, like they don't have many names. And we are living somewhere about here, and we are building a house somewhere about there. And that's about, well, it depends who's citing, whether it's 10 or 20 minutes. My daughter was slower. And that is it. And I seem to have talked far too fast, because Lee tells me I have more time than I thought I did. Yeah, the end. Yeah, release Camelia. Right. I should get the hell out of the way, let Brian go